Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the Level Builder tutorial series. Today we're going to be looking into a few completely different things. But first of all, there's one quick sort of aesthetic change we need to make to our game. So let's go inside the viewport and let's find the camera properties, okay? We are going to be changing these. 512, and in the height will be 288. Alright? This will be a lot smaller, but it'll allow us to actually have a very nice close-up in the game, because, well, Mario or any game, you need to be up close to the gameplay. And then a quick thing we can also change is just change the horizontal border to 999 and the vertical border to 999. And what this will do is when we have an object in the game that we're following with the camera, when it moves along, then the camera will automatically move along with it too. Okay, to start off with, we're going to be creating a new object. This is going to be controller camera. We're going to really get into the camera now, and we're going to figure out how it actually works. So I'll put it up here in our object tree, and then what I'll also do is in the room editor have the object following be the controller camera, because we're going to want to be following the camera in the level. And then also inside the level, what we can do is we can add the controller camera to the level. Alright? Now let's dig into the code for this. So first we're going to need to create an event, and I'm going to set visible equals false. We don't really need to do this, but the camera is nothing, it's just invisible. And then we're also going to have a speed for the camera. The speed is going to be 3. Alright? And there's a lot of code we're going to be needing to do with this camera, so let's just get right into it. So we're going to need a variable called C, and that's view get camera view current. Alright, so we're just setting up a variable that's storing where the camera is. Now we're going to need a couple of variables. Camera get view x of C of camera C, and then we need to get the y coordinate of the camera as well. And we're just using these things called getters, which allow us to get some sort of value. So instead of using accessors, which is c.x, that would be how we use an accessor. We need to use a getter in this case. Alright? Because camera is a sort of special situation, you can say. And then var hh is the, you might guess it, the view height. Oh geez, I spelled that way wrong. Alright, of camera C. And the var ww is camera get view width of C, obviously. And now what we need to be doing is we need to be setting the actual x and y values for this. So x equals xx plus ww divided by 2. Y equals yy plus hh divided by 2. So what this is doing is putting the camera exactly in the center of our view. So let's look in here. It doesn't matter if this camera is positioned in the right spot, because right with the create event, the camera will automatically be placed in the correct spot. So we have the create event out of the way. We also have the step event for this. Alright? Add event step. So this is going to work by the camera repeating the same code a certain amount of times, and that certain amount of times is the speed. So in our case, this will be happening 3 times, because if you remember, the speed variable is 3. So in order to do the same code over a certain amount of times, you can just do repeat and then the number of times the speed. Alright? So now we're just going to be checking if we're moving left, right, and up and down. So we'll just need the basic code for that. X minus minus. And I'll just copy this and paste it. Alrighty. Okay. And then we also need to be checking to see if it's up or down. Oh, up and down. And this will be y minus minus and y plus plus. Alright, we have the basics out of the way. Now we're going to be doing some funky code here, alright? We're going to be checking if the view is on the edge of the room and the camera's and we need to make sure the camera is not passing the middle of the view. Alright? It's kind of some funky code, but it's actually very useful to have. So let's get right into it. It's the same sort of thing that we were doing above, where we're just getting the camera view width of C, and we're seeing if x is less than 0 plus WW divided by 2. So we're seeing if x is less than less than half of the width of the view. So if the camera is going farther than it possibly is supposed to be able to, and then we're needing to see or. Remember, that's an or symbol. X is greater than the room width minus WW divided by 2. And then if it is, then we just need to reset the value. Alright, so we just need to see where the camera is, and we just need to place the x value wherever it is. So x equals xx plus width divided by 2. And then now we need to do the same thing for the y value. Okay, and then this will be the height. So now we need to be seeing if y is less than 0, or y is less than 0 plus the height divided by 2, and then y is less than the room height. So y is less than the room height minus HH divided by 2. And then we need to find the YY, HH, and we need to change this to a Y. And we need to change the top variable. I almost forgot about that. Alright. Does all this code check out? What are we getting here? Oh yeah. We need a parenthesis here and a parenthesis here. Alright. I seem to forgot to have changed one thing. We need to change this x equals to a y. So now this should work perfectly. Alright. So yeah, we can move all around, but yet when we're reaching the corner, the camera stops. Alright? Look at that. We can just move all around the view. And then while we're moving, we can be placing blocks as we need to, and we can quickly just create cool new levels. Alright? So that's the basic look at adding a camera into the level. Now, we're going to need to be getting into some other things. We're going to be looking at removing blocks from a level and adding an actual player object. And this player object will, well, let you play the level. But we also want people creating levels to be able to choose where the player is created in the level. So let's get into that. In order to start out, I'll just duplicate this, and then we can create a sprite player, which will be 32 by 32, because remember, everything is 32 by 32. So because of the limitations we've created for ourselves using a grid, it is going to have to be 32 by 32, unless we want to do some funky things and make it maybe 64 or 32 by 64. I mean, we can do that if we want, but as a simple intro, let's not get into that. Unless people request it a lot, then of course I can do it. But for now, I'll just create a simple, happy, that doesn't look very happy, but kind of happy looking sort of player object, or actually player sprite in this case. So now that that's ready, we can create obj_player. So with the player, we're going to need to change some things up though, because we're only going to want to have one player in the entire level. So we're going to need some special code for the player in order to do that. So first of all, let's just drag that there, and then we're just going to need a create event. Alright? And inside this create event, we're going to need to check if there are more than one players in the room. So to do that, we can do instance number object player. So if there's more than one player, it'll return more than one. And of course, we don't want this. We want there to only be one player in the entire level. So with instance furthest. So what this is doing is we're finding the object of the player that's farthest away from the current object player. And what's going on is we're going to delete that object from the room because we only want there to be one. And wherever you currently place it is probably where you want it to be. So you need to get rid of the old object player and then place the object player somewhere new. And obviously you want the player in the new spot, not the old one. So we just find the one that's farthest, and it's always going to be the other one, because it's unless they're in the same x and y coordinate, which is not going to happen, then it'll just delete the one that's farther away. Of course, if there was more than one, then this code would just destroy the one that's farthest away, and it would leave the one in the middle. But there's never going to be more than two, because whenever you place one, it destroys the other one. So like, it's impossible unless you literally go inside the code and try to change it, which if they're doing that, then they deserve to have things screwed up, I guess. So yeah, we just need to do the usual selected grid and then change the value for it. So we just need to find where they actually are. So we're just going to need to do floor x divided by 32, floor y divided by 32, and we've gone over this a few times, so I'm not going to explain why I'm doing this. And then we're just going to replace that value with ID sky. So sky, remember, is just 0, so it's just the like sort of empty value, I guess you can say. And did I already put that there? What's the... Oh, forgot a parenthesis. So there we go. Does that all work out? It should. Alright. So also we're going to need a parent for this object. We're going to need the parent block, because yeah, technically this is going to be a block, and that's where the whole parenting thing is going to start to get a little messy. But for now, let's just have the player be a block. Alright, now that we have that set up, let's quickly just go into the controller game, and then let's look at adding a new enumerator for player. So that'll just equal 3 for now, and then we can just set this to ID player. Okay, now let's go to script load grid to level. So this is where we have all the values that we're needing to include, and we just need a new case for id.player. So all we need to do is create the layer and do the same old thing that we've been doing a million times. Level blocks, and then we just create object player. Simple as always. And of course we just need to do break. So when we press play, we should see that we can place the player, and wherever I place him is the new spot that he gets deleted from the old one. Alright, so we're also going to add something very quickly. So when someone presses down on the global right pressed, we're just going to quickly add a way to get rid of the current block that's there, and then obviously just replace it with the sky. So same thing as before, but now we're just getting rid of the block. So then we can just do ds grid set global.selected grid x, x, y, y, and let me see here. We're just going to want to be setting it to the ID of sky. Alright, so pretty simple stuff. So now when I press space, or when I press play, I can add the player, I can delete these blocks, and I can move the player, delete the player. Now there's no player, and I can delete all these blocks around. I can move around, delete them as I move, and so on. So yeah. Alright, so let's get rid of the object ground step event and then move everything to the create event. Okay, so if dsgrid get global.selected grid floor x divided by 32 and floor y divided by 32 minus 1 does not equal ID sky, then all we need to do is change the image index to 1. So the reason we're moving this to the create event is because every single frame we're destroying the object ground and we're replacing it again and again. So we can just use the create event for that. And actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to need to go inside here, go to the create event, and change this to ID ground. Alright, so see here, the grass block is always on top. Okay. Alrighty, there's only one more big thing that we need to do. So we need to find the key pressed space event and then just add some quick code here. Alright, so we need to see if the global.current selection does not equal id.player. And if it does not equal that, then we're just gonna increase the current selection. Because we're pressing space, and whenever we press space, we want them to be able to switch the current block that they're using. And ID player is at the bottom right now, so we need to start over when we get to that. So then we just do the current selection as equal to 1. We don't want to start with 0 because we don't want to be placing the sky, because we can already delete blocks to automatically use the sky. So let's try this out. So I'm placing that, I press space, I'm placing that, now I'm placing that, and I'm back to that. So there we go. And I can still just delete blocks and everything. Alright, so we're basically done. But I'll actually give you kind of a quick tease for the next episode. So, right at the top here, I'm going to have global.editMode equals true. And what we're going to be getting into in the future is actually looking at how we can use, or how we can at least switch from the edit mode to the play mode. So when you're playing the game, we're doing a lot of code right now, you know, obviously, that we don't want to be using when we're playing the game. Like, if you really think about it, the entire controller game is set up for level building, but we also want to be able to play our levels too, of course. So, yeah, it's just something to think about. How can we switch from editing to actually playing? So if you want, you can write some sort of comments, maybe saying what you think, and I'll actually tell you if that's what we're doing in the next episode, because I already have at least a pretty well thought out way of making this work, making this game work, while also keeping things simple. And that's what programming is all about, because you need to keep things simple, obviously, and obviously you need them to work right. So it's just finding the right balance between the two, and not wasting so much time, you know, because you could waste days away and get the perfect system, but what's the point? I mean, unless you're sharing it with the world, you're sharing the source code everywhere, then it might be really useful to have a perfectly like commented out and everything is perfect. But anyways, thank you for watching.